sexual intimacy changes from GLP-1 weight loss? We're going to discuss it in today's episode. Hi, beautiful friends. I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping. I have lost a whopping 110 pounds from Zepbound weight loss over the last 2.5 years of being on Mounjaro, Zepbound, and Tirzepatide compound. And on today's episode, I want to do a deep dive, as deep as one can on YouTube, talking about sexual intimacy from the GLP-1 perspective of losing weight through science. And we're going to go through and cite a new study. I'll link it down in the description link below because I do require and demand myself to be factually accurate. This study comes from the Kinsey Institute, and it's fascinating to me. So let's buckle up, let's dive in. So in this study, it's talking about how people's sexual intimacy definitely changes on GLP-1 medication. Some for good, some for bad. Stay till the end. I'm going to tell you who's happier, men or women, with the new sexual intimacy changes. That was very interesting to me, by the way. I was kind of shocked. But it was in the studies from Kinsey, it says 18% of patients on GLP-1 medication. So we're going to lump into the study Wegovy, Mounjaro, Ozempic, Zepbound, Tirzepatide compound, semaglutide compound, that 52% of GLP-1 users reported the medication had impacted their sexual lives. And so in terms of their sex life, it changed. That there was a change both in positive ways and negative ways. In addition, this Kinsey study also said that 18% of people's their sexual desire actually did increase. But 16% said that it decreased. So what is that, 34%? So off quick math off the top of my head, what is that, 65%, like no changes on there. 16% of people taking GLP-1 medication found that they were more comfortable with how they look naked. And so with that, 14% said that they were less comfortable. I'm going to break this whole thing down. I want to give you the data, the first part of this data, which I found fascinating. 16% said their sexual function improved. And again, this is not, this is supposed to be for like health and wellness education. Obviously, talk always to your own healthcare provider with this. So 16% said sexual function improved, but 12% said their sexual function worsened. And so I've done a video recently, a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, talking about bariatric patients, how very much bariatric surgery actually showed there was a lot of divorces, not a lot, and I should be citing the specific reference to that to not just give you a broad term. So let me rephrase that. But bariatric patients, which GLP-1 patients can glean from some of that, of how when someone's bodies change, that changes relationships, sexual intimacy or not. For me, definitely my friendships have changes. My partnership with my hot husband has changed. Relationships have changed in general, let alone when you add into their sexual intimacy with it too. So survey findings revealed very sizable differences, with men appearing to experience they're experiencing more positive side effects and negative side effects, where compared to women, men were twice as likely to say that their libido had increased, and they were happier with their bodies, and they had better sexual function. However, men, this is the other interesting part, were also twice as likely as women to report low libido, feeling worse about their bodies, and decreased sexual function since taking GLP-1 medication. So the results also suggested that GLP-1 medications could be giving men a bigger boost in their dating life than women. Men were 3 times more likely than women to say they felt more confident with their appearance and that they were getting more matches on dating apps. And I did also another separate video on that too, about how dating apps have changed as a result of GLP-1 medication. It's fascinating. If you were in the dating world, I'm curious your take on that. If with dating, I bet you it has. And if you get matched with somebody who's also on a GLP-1 medication, but I digress. And then also not on a GLP-1 medication, fascinating. So men were twice as likely to say that they were going on more dates, yet men also felt more stigma, with 60% reported fear around being judged or shamed for taking GLP-1 medication versus 35% of women. And y'all tell me, because I get your private like DMs and emails and things like that, that there's a lot of dudes watching this channel. They don't comment as much as women do. So if you're a gentleman and you're watching this, hey friend, that there's a lot of men who take GLP-1 medication. I just don't think it's as openly spoken about as it is for women. And so with this makes sense to me, that last stat of 60% reported fear around men about being judged and shamed for taking GLP-1 medication that women don't necessarily have. But women have their own cross to bear. We got our own, like, so to speak. We got our own, the grass is not always as green. So I find this fascinating for a couple of things. What this study tells me, and there's a couple more pieces of data, and then I want to break it down. And only the way that the Countess of Shopping can, is that some polls suggest that 12% of the population have tried GLP-1 medication, and about how much this is shifting the landscape of 17% of purchase new clothing to show off their bodies. You may be wearing more revealing clothing as a result of that. 16% said they heard from ex-partners. I did a whole video on that, about how 16% of people are hearing from ex-partners and things like that. I definitely have had people from my past pop up where I'm like, you did not pay me the time of day. You did not pay me the time of day. Or also have found out that I'm, anyways. 14% said that they were getting more matches on dating apps, which I could see that. I actually think it would be more, quite frankly. Like, to me, 14%, I bet you it's more than that. I feel like that's not necessarily, like Kenzie Institute, like, I feel like it might be more than that. 13% felt more confident posting photos of themselves online. 12% felt more confident asking other people out on dates or asking them out in general. And 12% said that they were going on more dates. To me, this is where I am fascinated by that, because I would think that, and 59% of people who are taking GLP-1 medications report at least one impact of GLP-1 medication on their dating life. So with this, if you're married and having sexual intimacy with your partner, I find that this is fascinating, because is one of those, like, I'm super curious about, for me, I can go through and be like, check about those components and what has changed and what still continues to remain the same, which the first breakdown of this data for me is why I talk about permanent sustainable lifestyle changes. And the emotional component of this for me, for Zepbound weight loss, is not just about the physical, but the emotional, mental, spiritual, like, it's the all-encompassing component for me. It's not just about what my body's looking like. Because that for me that's caused me a lot of problems. And this is why I want to make permanent, sustainable lifestyle changes. But I definitely have had pockets in my GLP-1 journey of where I can relate so much to this data, of where I literally want to jump out of my skin. I'm like, I look better or worse than what I have in my head, and that body dysmorphia, I don't know if I definitely have, like, I don't know if I'm using that in the right context, but the way that I view myself in the mirror, sometimes I'm like, it looks the same or not. I was just on QVC yesterday, and I walked, it wasn't this picture, it was another picture, but it was from Monday, as I'm filming this, Monday, July 28th show. I walked off and I called my husband, almost crying. I was like, I looked at the playback. I could cry right now talking about it. And I was like, I look awful. Like, I look disgusting. And my husband's like, no, you looked great. And then I started getting DMs from so many of you. And then in our free encouragement group, so many of you guys posted so many nice things. And I was like, okay, well, maybe, like, that's why I need other people in my life who I love and I actually do care about their opinion. Some people, I don't care about some people's opinion. Other people, there's certain people I do. And my husband being like, babe, I would tell you, because he would, if I looked not good, because he has in the past. Sometimes I'm like, you need to, like, soften that a little bit. But he's like, no, babe, you looked great. Your makeup looked great, and your hair and your outfit, and you look skinny, and blah, 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 blah. Like, he was being so sweet. I walked off this last show feeling like I looked like garbage. So that, like, carrying that into sexual intimacy for people, if there is an unhealthy viewpoint, still, for me, that shows that there's more work to be done with my therapist, which is why, number one, I say have a team of people around you, a team of people around you to help support, not just like a healthcare provider, but like a dietitian, a trainer, a therapist, mindset. And if you can't afford those, there's a ton of free resources. A ton of free resources. So don't use finances as an excuse, because that's not true. Like, that is a lie. Like, don't lean into that. There's a ton of free resources you can find, and I've done a ton of videos on those too. Have a team around you to help support you. And then number two, have people around you to help too with that, because of my mindset, which I could see why having this mindset of still working to heal this perspective on the way in which I look at my body and the way in which my body functions on GLP-1 medication, how that can relate to sexual intimacy and the desire, sexual desire as well. I can easily see that there's this correlation on that. There's also, and again, I know children aren't watching this episode at all, or they better not be, because we're talking about sexual intimacy. But with that, for some people who have had SA backgrounds, how that was a protective form for them. So then taking away that protection on the outside, I've talked about that before, and with my childhood experiences of having things happen to me that should never happen to children, how that was very much has been tied into it, shedding that and losing that, how that has had for me to work with a therapist to help me change that belief system. If you don't come with that baggage, that certainly is going to be very different for you than somebody like me who's had SA background, substantial, of having to heal that component too. When I signed up for GLP-1 medication, did I think that all of that was going to come to the surface? No. But has it? Yes. And by healing those things with working with a trained professional, that has made other aspects of wellness so much better. For example, even just wearing a bathing suit, very much, just even that component of how in this study it talks about people buying new clothes and feeling comfortable in that, or about being naked with their partners, how that can change and feeling that comfortability with that too. Or the other interesting part of this too is how people don't feel comfortable now. They don't feel comfortable, which I could also see because of my own experience, strength and hope, weighing over 300 pounds and now having a ton of loose skin. I just signed up to talk with my plastic surgeon. I finally got in, I booked my consultation. It's a year out just to have a consultation with my plastic surgeon. And then after that, it'll be 6 months until I can actually have the surgery. So a year and a half from now, feasibly, but I'm at least on the list. Having that with loose skin and the body changes, specifically for me, loose skin on my stomach and my thighs, and having lifts of things lifted, how that can change sexual intimacy, sexual desire, and libido, like changing those things. Very much so. If you don't feel comfortable then now with a ton of loose skin, or the way I'm saying loose skin because that's probably the most prevalent, and I can use that own personal experience, strength and hope. I can use my I statements with that, of where I do, I'm like, ooh. And if you've seen, you guys know I have to quote Golden Girls because I love, that's my favorite TV show. Golden Girls, where Blanche says only on your back about how you're loose skin if you go like this, and Dorothy holds the mirror like this. And then she's like, oh my God, because it's all hanging. Certainly that comes into play of changing of what's looking in the mirror with sexual libido and sexual desire because there's a ton of loose skin. And that I can wear cute leggings like this. In this picture, I got these compression leggings on. They're hotter than hot. They're so dang cute. I love those leggings. I used to not wear leggings. Now I wear leggings. Or leggings because y'all told me to wear leggings, by the way. I was like so uncomfortable. You guys are like, it's time. I felt like I was in The Lion King where I was like, it's time. It's time to wear leggings. And so wearing those, having that compression, my body looks a lot smaller wearing those versus like even jeans or other things, let alone being naked. And so I can see in terms of sexual intimacy, how much this does change and how I want you to walk away from this video feeling supported, encouraged, and pumped about your GLP-1 journey. That this is the blessing. Like this very much can be also, and I've talked about this in other videos, that I have had in my GLP-1 weight loss journey, refinement periods. And that maybe this is a refinement period for you. We're reframing it of where pain is the touchstone of growth. And so recognizing that there's uncomfortability, ooh, where I feel like I want to literally leap out of my skin, ooh, that uncomfortability, and then how I can heal that to move to the next level in my healing journey for my body, mind, spirit, all of that. Like for me, this is about permanent, sustainable lifestyle changes. Permanent. And how then can I have permanent, sustainable lifestyle changes if I'm thinking my body's gross or I'm not liking what I'm seeing in there? And that's something for me that has been that I've really had to work on, that I didn't realize how much I didn't like my body at certain points and how embarrassed I've been about the way that I've looked, and also not delusional, but like disassociated with how I look. I can remember taking this before picture, riding my exercise bike in my workout room, and thinking I don't look that bad. And now that I look back, I don't think that I look bad because I don't. I feel like I have so much love, grace, kindness, and compassion. Sorry, I'm trying to get it together. I have so much grace, kindness, love, and compassion for this woman who weighs over 300 pounds, who's just trying. She's just trying, and nothing's working. Nothing worked for me until GLP-1 medication. And realizing it was truly the tip of the iceberg with this medication for me to start healing all this stuff, not just with my perspective with food, not just with learning how to work out and lift and do these cool things and ride horses and do a lot of cool stuff physically that I wasn't able to do, but truly appreciating and loving the person in the mirror to be like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. Like, I'm so proud of the work that you've done, because this has been a lot of work. It's been a lot of work. And how deep it is. And I know for some people, them taking GLP-1 medication, they're like, it's just not that deep. This is super fit. Like, it's just, it's for some people that there is vanity metrics with it too. And there certainly is for me. I mean, and I think for most people, if you're brutally honest, that you want to also kind of look cute, like you do, like being honest. But also the deeper levels of this that are set up to heal. And that maybe if there is, and what I take out of these studies that makes my heart sad is people who have more dissatisfaction, that are having a negative experience with how they look in terms of their sexual intimacy, in terms of their sexual desire, that makes me sad for them. And then if you feel that way, I really want to encourage you. For me, it took and has taken talking to a therapist, a trained PhD therapist, to help me with my mindset of where I could get brutally honest. I could get brutally honest and say like all the closeted things that were in my head in terms of how I felt about my body and the way that I looked, and getting really, really comfortable with who I am. For me, it's not just about the sexual intimacy and the sexual desire and things like that. That's certainly definitely, my outfits are different, my clothes are different, where I shop now has changed. That was a whole thing too. I'm shopping at different places. I literally just bought stuff from Victoria's Secret. It actually came and I was so disappointed. It was not that great. I was like, ooh. Like just in general, those things, that has all changed. But on the inside, how I feel about myself in the mirror, that is what to me is also important. Because then like all these other things. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. For me, being on this GLP-1 medication, I was so successful in so many areas of my life that I've rocked out my career and run 3 multi-million-dollar businesses, started them from scratch. They were not franchises. My hot husband and I started them from scratch. Got a great hot husband, got a kid, like so many areas of my life super successful, except for this juggernaut of weight. But not knowing how much that touched and permeated my life and how much that was going to change some of these things. And pain is the touchstone of growth. So if you were one of those people that was in this survey that was 16%, what was it? 16% of men. It was the 16% of men. This made me so sad for 16%, 14, it was 14% of people, not just men and women, said that they were less comfortable being naked. That 16% said that their sexual desire actually decreased. 12% say their sexual function worsened. If there's negative connotation, to talk about that with somebody in your life, your healthcare provider, a trained professional, that pain is the touchstone of growth, to heal from that. And that if you don't feel comfortable in those functions, to seek, help with that. Definitely. I think that is interesting. So that's one part of it. And then the dating component, I feel like, is a different part of it. I met my husband when I was 18 years old at James Madison University doing a keg stand. And so I have been with my husband for over 25 years. So in terms of talking about dating, I don't have very much experience in that department, because I married my husband in my early 20s, and that's my experience in terms of dating. But in terms of dating, so take like my experience, strength, and hope, I think that it's interesting in there about how you're going to feel on the inside and how then that's projected. And I shared this story, and I think that it really applies to dating as well, and also in terms of like sexual intimacy and things like that. I had said in a video about how I felt like people were being so much nicer to me now that I've lost weight, that I definitely felt like that people were kinder, they held the doors more to me, and that people were nicer. And one of you amazing viewers, I forget who it was, so forgive me if this was you, but I have thought about this for it was very early on in my journey, like 6 months into my journey. So this was 2 years ago. So if you're still watching, love you. said to me, maybe it's not that you're bigger, it was that your energy has changed. And what you're projecting out that energy, maybe that's what's changed. And I said, and I clutched my pearls. And I said, you're right. Actually, I think that's part of it. If I used to walk around very differently with different energy at 300 pounds than I do now. Now I'm good at being able to be like, I'm good at that, right? Like I'm good at that. I know that's also a coping mechanism partially for me too, if we're being brutally honest. But the energy in which I exude out now is different. I have changed as a human being over the last 2.5 years. And part of that is the way that I feel about myself is that there's more self-confidence and more self-esteem and healing some of those dark, deep crevices within myself. That this is not just necessarily about sexual intimacy and sexual desire, although there are so many physical components that this medication can help. Like physically being able to have the sexual functions with that, definitely the studies are showing that it can help with. For other people, it can worsen, which is why talking to your healthcare provider. And I think that it's interesting to me that I had said that about who is happier with having sexual intimacy from GLP-1 medication. It's both. I think that it's both, but I also think that there's also both are also less happy with their sexual intimacy because of GLP-1 medication. And like I said and referenced earlier about my loose skin, I could see how that is. I definitely could see how that is. But then also, a couple of things with that. For me talking now with a plastic surgeon about my loose skin is not so I feel comfortable naked. That's not why I'm doing it. But I know that part of it is because my self-esteem is not derived from that. But there is, but there is a little bit of piece of I want to feel comfortable in my skin, like literally and physically, like both, figuratively and literally. And so getting rid of that loose skin will make me feel a little bit more comfortable. And I can see it, and I've talked to people who've had loose skin surgery. And thank you so much, by the way. There's been so many people in our free encouragement group who've also had that. This is on countessofshopping.com/group who've talked about their experience, strength, and hope with loose skin surgery. So thank you. If you were one of those people, I love you so super much. And I'm so appreciative to have people who walked before me talk about this loose skin removal experience and how to do it and what you're looking for and like all of that. I appreciate that so much. That this is one of the pieces in terms of evolving as a human being, which is why I always say, for me, permanent, sustainable lifestyle changes. And one of those is sexual intimacy and sexual desire and sexual function of these lifestyle changes with that too. And so I hope that this video has helped you. I hope that you have some nuggets in this video to take away for you about, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense of certain things. For me, it definitely has. And it's helped me be like, okay, there's still more work to be done on the mindset component. There's still more work to be done of like lifting weights and things like that, of physically working out. I did not physically lift weights and work out the first year. My focus was solely on changing lifestyle changes with my food. Just focusing on literally walking my dogs. That was my exercise. And if that's you, great. And if you're not where you want to be yet in terms of your sexual intimacy, great, more will be revealed, has been my experience, strength, and hope. That this, I am a turtle. Fellow turtles unite. I feel like I say that so much. I am so slow. If you compare me to other people, like I am so slow. But the comparison is the thief of joy, so don't compare yourself. But also, it's really taken me a lot of time to make these permanent, sustainable lifestyle changes. And 5 years from now, that I know that that's going to be tried and true, that I've made lifestyle changes. And if you're feeling discomfort with sexual intimacy in terms of like the internal stuff, not like physical discomfort, but like you want to leap out of your skin feeling like, great, pain is the touchstone for growth. And maybe this is the opportunity for you to look at that, and it's another layer of the onion for you to heal and have with love, grace, kindness, and compassion and curiosity to help find solutions, right? Because there's a lot of things that I had thought when I started this journey that I don't think anymore. And that a lot were lies. A lot more lies around that, and really finding out what the truth is for me. And we're all different. We're so different. And I always say this too, of that obesity is a wide hoop to jump through. Very, very wide. There's many different ways to do this thing. And so I want to encourage you, there's many different ways to do this. And in terms of healing that component with sexual intimacy and sexual desire and libido and things like that, talking to your healthcare provider, seeking wise counsel, and looking at it truly from a love, grace, kindness, not in a condemnation, judgy way, but in an encompassing health way, I think is important. And I think specifically for men, that journey, not I think, I know, the stats just told us, it's different for men than it is for women. It is different. And for men right now, in terms of taking GLP-1 medication, you look at that study. And so for men, this is where it makes my heart so sad about how, what did it say for men? It was how many percentages of men? It was that men felt the stigma around taking GLP-1 medication, that men felt more of a stigma. Yeah, it was that men were twice as likely as women to report, to have, shoot, where was it? Men felt more stigma, with 60% of men reported feeling fear around being judged or shamed about taking a GLP-1 medication, versus women feel 35% of being judged or shamed. Men have 60%. So if you're watching this video and you've had self-internal, I don't know, there's so many of you men that do comment on my videos, like when I do on my emoji of the day. And then there's so many, I know that you don't, because when you DM me privately or email me privately, there's so many of you. And I want you to know, like, you're not alone in this journey too, that it's going to be more and more as these drugs become more and more common, but it already is so common, but it's going to be even more common as there's more, FDA approvals for different things besides just weight loss. It's going to be more and more common of people taking GLP-1 medication. It's going to loosen that stigma for you. And so I want to give you hope and encouragement on that for the gentlemen in the community and for the women too. I mean, 35% of women as well, like, hello. But I hope this video has been helpful for you. My accountability question, what are you doing today to move you closer to your goals? Tell me down in the comments below. Number two, our emoji of the day today is going to be a heart. And I do emojis of the day to get to know you better because I care. It tells me that you made it this far in the video. Literally, it's my way. I love knowing our community. The byproduct of that is I will pray over you. If you don't believe in prayer, uplift you in positive thought. But our emoji of the day is heart. If you're watching on a TV, feel free to whip out your phone and just type that in real quick. And I love you guys, and I'm cheering you on. We're going to pick up this conversation in my free encouragement group too. It's private. So if you don't necessarily want to leave a comment on here on YouTube, I also understand that. And our group will be talking to, I always do like to give the disclaimer. I was very intentional about my word choices here on YouTube, and I still will continue in my free encouragement group to be very intentional about my word choices, of not being too graphic and being too, like, there's a way we can have this conversation that is, I don't know. I also don't want to hear about everyone's sex life either. This is where I get super uncomfortable, where I'm like, there's a way we can talk about it in health and wellness that doesn't, there's a line. And so I'm saying that right now to set boundaries with it, but I don't know if that's coming across really weird or not. I do feel weirdly like me making this video has taken, I did this video, I don't know, what was it, like 8 months ago? And so me revisiting this topic, it's taken me 8 months to revisit this topic. I think it was 8 months. I'm not great with timelines, but anyways, it's been a long time since I've talked about this topic because I do feel uncomfortable. But more will be revealed as we continue to heal and learn and grow and stretch and become better and better people. My sweet friends, share this with your GLP-1 bestie. I know that you have one. And if you don't, you can make a GLP-1 bestie in my group. It's private, by the way. Be kind to yourself and free. And be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping, count my blessings because life is delicious. I love you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.